The holographic chamber hummed with a low electric tension that seemed to vibrate through the very molecular structure of the United Earth Diplomatic Center. Ambassadors from a dozen different star systems watched in collective disbelief as the unexpected transmission began to materialize. A being unlike any they had seen before slowly took shape, translucent, almost ethereal, with layers of membrane-like skin that shifted colors like living light. The Zilara ambassadors stood, if one could call the fluid motion of their species, standing. At the center of the projection, surrounded by fragments of a world on the brink of total annihilation. Behind the ambassador, glimpses of a dying planet told a story of unimaginable destruction. Crystalline cities crumbled like fragile glass sculptures, their intricate architectural designs collapsing into seas of fractured light. Massive energy storms tore through landscapes that once hosted billions, leaving nothing but ghostly remnants of a civilization moments from extinction. Commander Michael Rodriguez, head of Earth's Interstellar Diplomatic Corps, leaned forward. His weathered hands, marked by decades of service, rested on the smooth surface of the conference table. The room fell silent, even the ambient technology seeming to hold its breath. "We have come to you," the ambassador began, their voice a melodic sequence of harmonic tones that translated through sophisticated linguistic algorithms, "because no one else will listen." The holographic display expanded, showing a star chart that highlighted the approaching threat. Massive energy signatures moved like predatory shadows between star systems, the void harvesters. Each point of light represented a civilization already consumed, reduced to nothing more than cosmic dust and forgotten memories. "The Galactic Confederation has made its decision," the ambassador continued, their form shimmering with an emotion that transcended simple fear. "We are to be sacrificed. Deemed too weak, too insignificant to warrant protection." Michael Rodriguez knew the reputation of the Void Harvesters. They were more than just a military threat. They were a systematic engine of galactic reduction. 200 civilizations had already fallen. 200 unique cultures, histories, and potential futures, erased without a moment's hesitation. The Zilara delegation had spent decades studying potential saviors. They had analyzed every spacefaring species, every technological civilization that might offer a chance of survival. And in a conclusion that defied all logical analysis, they had chosen humanity. A species that most advanced civilizations considered barely out of its technological infancy. A species that had only recently established its first permanent lunar colony. A species that was still wrestling with its own internal conflicts and planetary challenges. "We require protection," the ambassador stated, their tone a perfect blend of desperation and unexpected hope. "And we believe your species is our only chance." The other ambassadors in the room erupted into barely contained laughter. Holographic representatives from the Quantum Collective, the Silicon Nexus, and the Membrane Confederacy exchanged looks of derision. Humanity, protectors. The notion was absurd. But something in the Zilara ambassador's presentation gave Michael Rodriguez pause. Years of diplomatic experience had taught him to look beyond the obvious, to see the currents that ran beneath the surface of any interaction. The fragments of the dying world continued to collapse behind the ambassador. Cities fell. Landscapes dissolved. And yet, the being before them remained utterly composed, not with the resignation of the defeated, but with the precision of those who had calculated their final, most desperate move. "We have studied your history," the ambassador said, almost as an afterthought. "We have analyzed your development, and we have concluded that you are our best, our only hope." The room fell into a profound silence. Outside the diplomatic center, the Earth continued its ordinary rotation, completely unaware that its most extraordinary moment was about to begin. The Galactic Confederation's central communication hub erupted in a cacophony of holographic displays and simultaneous translations. Ambassadors from across known space gathered to discuss the Zilara's unprecedented request, their collective derision palpable through layers of quantum communication technologies. Dr. Helena Chin, Earth's lead xenopolitical strategist, watched the proceedings with a mixture of fascination and professional detachment. Her office, a compact sphere of advanced monitoring equipment, suspended high above the San Francisco diplomatic spire, hummed with quiet intensity. Dozens of holographic screens display the ongoing debate, each one a window into the complex diplomatic landscape. Humanity. The Silicon Nexus representative's voice crackled with electronic contempt. They cannot even stabilize their own planetary ecosystem. Their energy infrastructure is a patchwork of competing technologies. Their fastest ships would take decades to cross a single sector. The Quantum Collective ambassador added her critique. Elegant tendrils of light-based communication wrapped around her form, each movement a complex mathematical equation. Their technological development is charitably described as erratic. One moment, they demonstrate remarkable problem-solving capabilities. The next, they regress into tribal conflicts that would embarrass pre-spaceflight civilizations. Helena understood the critique. Humanity's development had been anything but linear. While other species had pursued perfect, optimized technological paths, humans seemed to thrive on chaos. Their history was a constant cycle of destruction and unexpected innovation. In the central chamber, a massive holographic representation of known galactic civilizations rotated slowly. Humanity appeared as a tiny, almost imperceptible blue-green dot. Compared to the massive energy signatures of more advanced species, they were barely visible. The Membrane Confederacy's representative pulled up a comprehensive technological comparison. Side-by-side displays showed humanity's current capabilities: rudimentary faster-than-light prototypes, experimental energy shield technologies, communication systems that were decades behind galactic standards. They have not even solved basic interstellar radiation protection, the representative noted. A series of medical scans highlighted the challenges human explorers faced: cellular damage, genetic instability, technological limitations that should have prevented any meaningful space exploration. But Helena knew something the other ambassadors overlooked. Humanity's greatest strength was never in perfection, but in adaptation. She accessed a confidential database, pulling up a series of case studies that most diplomatic circles ignored. The Panama Canal Project, the Manhattan Project, the global response to the climate crisis of the mid-21st century. Each example showed a pattern. When faced with seemingly impossible challenges, humans didn't just adapt. They transformed entire systems of thinking. Back in the Galactic Confederation chamber, the debate continued. More ambassadors joined, each more dismissive than the last. The Zilara's request was becoming a galactic joke, a moment of comedy in an otherwise serious diplomatic environment. They still use combustion-based transportation on their home planet, laughed the Quantum Collective representative. And they expect to protect an entire species from the Void Harvesters. What they didn't see were the classified reports Helena was reviewing, experimental quantum computing projects that rewrote fundamental understanding of information processing, biological adaptation research that suggested humans could modify their own genetic structure in ways no other species had considered, communication technologies that didn't just transmit information, but learned and evolved with each interaction. The Zilara had seen something others missed. Potential wasn't about current capabilities, but about the capacity for radical transformation. Outside Helena's office, the San Francisco skyline stretched toward the Pacific. Fusion reactors and vertical agricultural complexes stood as testament to humanity's ability to reimagine fundamental systems. Each structure told a story of solving problems that previous generations had considered impossible. As the Galactic Confederation continued to mock the idea of human intervention, Helena made a subtle notation in her diplomatic report. The other ambassadors saw weakness. She saw something far more dangerous: unpredictability. The holographic displays continued to spin, showing humanity as a tiny, almost insignificant point in the vast cosmic landscape. But points of light, no matter how small, could sometimes change everything. The research facility stood as a testament to human complexity, a structure that defied traditional architectural logic. Nestled in the mountain ranges of New Peru, the Global Adaptive Systems Research Center combined cutting-edge technology with an organic design that seemed to breathe with its own intelligence. Dr. Elena Rodriguez moved through the facility like a conductor orchestrating an impossible symphony. Holographic displays danced around her, each screen a window into a different dimension of human potential. Her team represented a microcosm of human diversity: engineers, biologists, mathematicians, and social scientists working in a harmony that transcended traditional disciplinary boundaries. "Look closer," she murmured to her primary research assistant, Daniel Kim, pointing at a complex simulation of species development. The hologram showed countless civilizations, each represented by a luminous thread of data. Most followed predictable patterns: technological development, peak civilization, gradual decline. Humanity's thread, by contrast, looked like an epileptic lightning bolt, chaotic, unpredictable, but somehow persistent. The Zilara's diplomatic request had triggered an unprecedented research initiative. Why would a dying species choose humanity as its potential savior? The question consumed Elena's every waking moment. Her research went far beyond conventional scientific analysis. She examined human history not as a linear progression, but as a complex adaptive system: the Industrial Revolution, the Digital Age, the global climate reconstruction. Each period represented not just technological advancement, but a fundamental reimagining of systemic possibilities. "It's not about having the most advanced technology," Elena explained to the holographic research panel, her voice steady and passionate. "It's about the capacity to completely transform existing systems." She pulled up historical examples that defied conventional understanding: the development of the Internet, the rapid global response to the mid-21st century climate challenges, the way humans had repeatedly turned seemingly insurmountable obstacles into opportunities for radical innovation. Daniel Kim highlighted a particularly interesting data set. "Look at our medical technology development," he suggested. The hologram shifted, showing how human medical research approached challenges. Where other species optimized existing solutions, humans were willing to completely deconstruct and rebuild entire treatment paradigms. A neural network analysis revealed something profound. Human creativity wasn't just a cultural trait, it was a fundamental evolutionary strategy. While other species sought stability, humans thrived on disruption. Each challenge was an opportunity to reimagine fundamental systems. Elena's primary research focused on what she called adaptive potential, the ability of a species to fundamentally transform its approach to challenges. The Zilara had recognized something that the Galactic Confederation had missed. Humanity's greatest strength was its inability to accept limitations. The facility's windows looked out over a landscape that told its own story of transformation. Vertical farms integrated with solar collection systems, atmospheric carbon reclamation towers that had transformed global climate patterns. Each structure was a testament to human ingenuity. "We don't just solve problems," Elena told her team during their daily briefing. "We redefine the very concept of problem solving." Her research had uncovered a crucial insight. Most advanced civilizations saw technology as a fixed system to be optimized. Humans saw technology as a living, breathing entity to be continuously reinvented. Each technological breakthrough was less about the specific solution and more about expanding the realm of what was considered possible. The Zilara's choice began to make sense. They weren't looking for traditional protection. They were seeking a species capable of completely reimagining the concept of survival. As night fell over the research center, Elena continued her work. Holographic displays surrounded her like a constellation of possibility. Each screen told a story of human potential, not of perfection, but of endless adaptation. Outside, the mountain landscape shifted with the changing light. Adaptive solar collection systems adjusted their angles. Atmospheric management technologies worked in silent coordination. The entire landscape was a living demonstration of the principle Elena had dedicated her life to understanding. Humanity was not a finished product. It was a continuous process of becoming. The Void Harvesters were about to encounter a species that didn't just resist destruction, a species that could transform the very concept of conflict. The Zilara home system hung like a fragile crystal suspended in the vast darkness of space. Massive energy storms swirled across planetary surfaces, a testament to the impending destruction that had driven them to seek humanity's protection. Commander Marcus Webb stood on the bridge of the ESS Horizon, Earth's most advanced prototype deep space vessel. The ship was less a traditional spacecraft and more a living system of adaptive technologies. Its hull shimmered with microscopic adaptive layers that could redistribute energy, change molecular density, and respond to threats in milliseconds. Incoming signatures called out Lieutenant Sarah Chen, her fingers dancing across holographic interface panels. Multiple contact points. Void Harvester fleet approaching. The tactical display exploded with activity. Where traditional military strategies would show neat formations and predictable attack patterns, the Void Harvester approach was something entirely different. They weren't just a fleet. They were a systematic deconstruction mechanism. Each vessel functioned as part of a larger, almost organic destruction system. Marcus studied the incoming data. The Void Harvesters didn't just destroy civilizations. They consumed them, breaking down entire planetary systems into base molecular components, leaving nothing but cosmic dust in their wake. 200 civilizations had fallen to this method, each one more advanced than the last. "They're scanning," Sarah reported, her voice steady, "preparing initial deconstruction protocols. Most species would have already begun their final transmissions. Prepare records, document final moments, accept inevitable destruction." The horizon was different. "Activate Adaptive Response Protocol," Marcus commanded. The ship's systems came alive in a way no traditional spacecraft ever could. Where other species designed weapons and defense systems with fixed parameters, the horizon was built on a fundamental principle of continuous adaptation. Its computational core didn't just process information. It learned, predicted, and transformed in real time. Microscopic nanite networks began to flow through the ship's structural systems. They weren't just defensive mechanisms. They were a living, evolving response to the incoming threat. Each nanite carried a complex algorithmic structure that could analyze, predict, and counter emerging attack patterns. The Void Harvester fleet moved with cold, calculated precision. Their approach was mathematical, a perfect deconstruction algorithm designed to break down planetary systems with maximum efficiency. Energy weapons that could slice through planetary crusts. Molecular disassembly beams that could turn entire continents into component atoms. But they had never encountered a species like humans. Initiating non-standard response, Marcus said, a slight smile crossing his face. The horizon didn't just defend. It danced. Traditional space combat followed predictable patterns: shields, weapon ranges, defensive formations. The horizon ignored every single one of these conventions. Its movement was fluid, almost organic. Energy redistribution happened faster than the Void Harvesters could analyze. Shield frequencies shifted in patterns that defied mathematical prediction. Sarah watched in amazement as the tactical display became less a military projection and more an abstract art piece. The horizon moved like water, flowing around attacks, splitting its energy signature, presenting multiple potential targets that were simultaneously real and illusory. "They can't lock targeting systems," she reported, a note of excitement in her voice. The Void Harvester fleet began to show the first signs of something unprecedented in their history: confusion. Adaptive communication systems began to probe the invaders' network, not to attack, but to understand. Each interaction was a learning moment, a chance to decode their fundamental operational logic. Where other species would launch direct counterattacks, humans sought to comprehend, to find the underlying system. Zilara observers watched in absolute amazement. This wasn't just defense. This was a complete reimagining of conflict itself. Marcus looked at the swirling battle around them. To an outside observer, it might have looked like chaos, but there was a deeper logic, a complex, evolving strategy that emerged from moment to moment. "We're not fighting," he muttered to himself. "We're having a conversation." The Void Harvesters had encountered countless civilizations, but they had never met a species that saw conflict as a dialogue of potential, rather than a binary struggle of destruction. The Global Research Collaborative hummed with an energy that defied traditional scientific boundaries. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the epicenter of humanity's most ambitious technological response, surrounded by a team that represented the most diverse collection of problem solvers ever assembled. Zillara observation specialists watched in disbelief as human researchers approached the challenge of defending an entire species with a methodology that seemed more like creative improvisation than traditional military strategy. "We're not building a weapon," Elena explained to the Zillara lead researcher. "We're creating a living system of response." The research facility looked less like a traditional laboratory and more like an organic ecosystem of innovation. Holographic displays interconnected with biological computing interfaces. Quantum processors worked alongside neural network simulations that could predict and adapt faster than any known computational system. The team had discovered something profound in the Zilara's technological components. Where the original designers had created rigid, optimized systems, humans saw potential for complete transformation. Each technological module became a starting point, not a final solution. Dr. Marcus Wong, a quantum systems expert, demonstrated the first breakthrough. The Zilara's defensive shield technology had been designed with perfect mathematical precision. Humans reimagined it as a dynamic learning system. "Watch," he said, bringing up a holographic demonstration. The original shield worked like a traditional barrier, a fixed system with predetermined response parameters. The human adaptation turned it into a living, breathing entity. The shield didn't just block incoming energy, it learned from each interaction. Every attack became information. Every assault was an opportunity to evolve. Nearby, Dr. Sarah Okoye worked on communication systems. The Zilara's original communication technology was a marvel of precise engineering. Laser-focused, mathematically perfect, completely inflexible. The human adaptation transformed it into something entirely different. Communication became less about transmitting information and more about creating adaptive networks. Each transmission carried multiple potential interpretations. The system could reshape its own communication protocols in real time. "It's not about having the right answer," Sarah explained to her colleagues. "It's about having the ability to generate new answers continuously." The Zilara observers recorded every moment, their own technological understanding being fundamentally challenged. Humans didn't see technology as a fixed solution. They saw it as a living, breathing ecosystem of potential. Elena's team broke every known rule of technological development. They didn't optimize. They reimagined. The defensive systems they developed defied conventional understanding. Microscopic nanite networks that could restructure themselves instantaneously, communication protocols that could change their fundamental operating principles in milliseconds, energy distribution systems that treated information as a fluid, adaptive resource. "Traditional technologies are like sculptures," Elena told the Zilara delegation. "We're creating technologies that are more like living organisms." Each breakthrough came from an unexpected place. A marine biologist's understanding of adaptive ecosystems, a quantum physicist's concept of probabilistic systems, a social network analyst's understanding of information flow. Disciplines that would never have been combined in any other civilization became the foundation of a revolutionary approach. The Zilara's original technological components became something entirely new, not through improvement, but through complete reimagination. Weapon systems that could predict attack vectors before they were initiated. Communication networks that could reshape themselves instantaneously. Defensive technologies that learned and evolved with each interaction. Outside the research facility, the landscape told its own story of human innovation. Vertical farms that adapted to changing climate conditions. Energy systems that transformed waste into resources. Transportation networks that reconfigured themselves in real time. This wasn't just technological development. This was a fundamental reimagining of what technology could be. The Void Harvesters had encountered countless civilizations, precise, optimized, predictable. They had never encountered a species that saw technology as a living, breathing entity of continuous potential. As the first adaptive defense systems came online, the Zilara observers realized something profound. They hadn't just found protection. They had discovered an entirely new way of understanding existence itself. The galactic communication network trembled with unprecedented tension. What had begun as a minor conflict was transforming into something no one could have predicted. At the Galactic Confederation's central monitoring station, holographic displays showed the unfolding battle in excruciating detail. Where other civilizations would have been reduced to cosmic dust within moments, humanity's response defied every known computational model. Senior analyst Dr. Keiko Nakamura watched with a mixture of professional fascination and growing disbelief. Her specialized tracking systems, designed to analyze thousands of potential conflict scenarios, began to malfunction. The human response was so fundamentally different that existing algorithms couldn't process the information. "They're not fighting," she muttered to her colleague. "They're conversing." The Void Harvesters approached conflict with mathematical precision. Each attack was a carefully calculated deconstruction protocol. Civilizations were reduced to their base components with cold, algorithmic efficiency. 200 successful eliminations had refined their approach into a perfect destruction mechanism. But humans introduced an element that no computational system could predict: radical unpredictability. Human spacecraft moved in patterns that defied traditional combat algorithms. Instead of maintaining fixed defensive positions, they flowed like water. Energy signatures shifted. Communication protocols transformed mid-interaction. Each moment became an opportunity for complete systemic reimagination. Commander Marcus Webb understood something fundamental that most species missed. Combat was not about destruction. It was about communication. "We're not fighting them," he explained to his bridge crew. "We're having a conversation they've never heard before." The Zilara observation team watched in absolute amazement. Their own technological understanding began to crack and reshape. Humanity wasn't just defending. They were fundamentally challenging the entire concept of conflict. Quantum communication networks captured fragments of the interaction. Where other species would have transmitted defensive strategies, humans sent complex information patterns that were part communication, part philosophical challenge. Each transmission carried multiple layers of potential meaning. The Void Harvesters' computational cores began to show the first signs of systemic confusion. Their attack algorithms encountered something unprecedented, an enemy that didn't just resist, but continuously reimagined the very concept of resistance. Dr. Elena Rodriguez monitored the conflict from the Global Research Collaborative. Her team had prepared for this moment, understanding that the battle was less about physical conflict and more about fundamental systems of understanding. "Look at the communication patterns," she told her colleagues. Holographic displays showed intricate networks of information exchange. "We're not just defending, we're teaching." Each human response carried an underlying message. Civilizations are not fixed systems to be destroyed. They are living, adaptive networks of potential. The Galactic Confederation's monitoring systems struggled to process the information. Traditional conflict analysis models began to collapse. Humanity introduced a variable that no computational system had ever encountered: the ability to transform the very nature of the conflict while the conflict was happening. Zilara researchers documented every moment. Their initial request for protection was transforming into something far more profound. They hadn't just found a defender. They had discovered a fundamental reimagining of existence itself. The battle moved beyond traditional understanding of warfare. Energy weapons became channels of information exchange. Defensive systems transformed into complex communication networks. Each moment was less about physical confrontation and more about challenging fundamental assumptions. Commander Webb's voice remained calm, almost meditative. "Continuous adaptation," he reminded his crew. "We are not a fixed system. We are a living, breathing process of potential. The Void Harvesters encountered something they had never faced in 200 successful eliminations. An enemy that didn't just resist, an enemy that could completely reshape the nature of the conflict in real time. Computational cores designed for perfect destruction began to show signs of systemic uncertainty. For the first time in their existence, the Void Harvesters were encountering a species that refused to be defined by existing parameters. As the conflict continued, one thing became increasingly clear. This was no longer just a battle for survival. This was a fundamental challenge to the entire galactic understanding of what conflict could mean. The research station orbiting the Zilara home system became more than a diplomatic outpost. It transformed into a living laboratory of interspecies collaboration, where the boundaries between technological understanding and philosophical exploration blurred into something entirely new. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood beside Krell, the primary Zilara research liaison, examining a holographic display that pulsed with intricate networks of information. Their partnership represented something far more profound than a simple scientific collaboration. Your species sees knowledge differently, Krell observed, their translucent form shifting with subtle emotional currents. Where we perfected, you explore. Where we optimized, you reimagined. The station itself reflected this new understanding. Zilara environmental technologies merged with human adaptive systems in ways no one could have predicted. Architectural designs became living networks that responded to both biological and computational needs. Energy systems transformed from fixed infrastructures to dynamic, breathing ecosystems. Human researchers learned that the Zilara's seemingly advanced technology was actually a form of sophisticated limitation. Perfect systems, once established, became rigid, unchangeable. The Zilara had reached a technological pinnacle that had become a form of evolutionary stagnation. We thought we were protecting our civilization, Krell explained during one of their many conversations. Instead, we were slowly suffocating it. The human approach was fundamentally different. Every system was a starting point, not a final solution. Technologies were living organisms, not static monuments. Where the Zilara saw completion, humans saw potential. Dr. Marcus Wong demonstrated this principle through a remarkable series of collaborative experiments. Zilara communication technologies, once precise and inflexible, were transformed into adaptive networks that could reshape themselves instantaneously. Each interaction became an opportunity for complete systemic reimagination. Cultural exchanges revealed even deeper levels of transformation. Zilara approached problem-solving through mathematical precision. Humans approached challenges as complex, interconnected ecosystems of potential. Their conversations became a dance of different perspectives, each interaction breaking down previous understanding. The station's medical bay became a testament to this new approach. Zilara healing technologies, which had been highly advanced but ultimately limited, merged with human adaptive medical research. Treatments were no longer fixed protocols, but living systems that could respond to individual biological needs in real time. We are learning to unlearn, Krell would often say, a phrase that captured the essence of their emerging relationship. Human cultural practices fascinated the Zilara. The ability to find opportunity in chaos. The willingness to completely redesign systems that seemed to work perfectly. The understanding that limitation was not a problem to be solved, but an invitation to explore. Zilara researchers studied human history with growing amazement. Every global challenge, climate transformation, technological integration, social restructuring, represented not a problem, but a possibility. Where other species would see obstacles, humans saw potential for complete reimagination. The research station became a microcosm of a new way of understanding existence. Technologies merge. Cultural perspectives intertwined. Each moment was an opportunity for complete transformation. Elena Rodriguez understood that this was more than a scientific collaboration. This was the emergence of a new way of thinking about potential itself. We're not just sharing technologies, she explained during a comprehensive report to Earth's diplomatic corps. We're developing an entirely new approach to understanding existence. The Zilara began to see their previous technological achievements as a form of sophisticated imprisonment. Perfect systems had become golden cages. Human perspective introduced a fundamental truth. Potential is not about reaching a final state, but about the continuous process of becoming. Krell's research team started implementing human-inspired adaptive protocols into their fundamental systems. Communication networks that could reshape themselves. Technological infrastructures that learned and evolved. Societal structures that saw change as an opportunity, not a threat. As the research continued, something remarkable emerged. This was not just an alliance of protection. This was the beginning of a fundamental reimagining of what intelligent civilization could mean. The Void Harvesters had encountered countless species. They had consumed civilizations with mathematical precision. They had never encountered a partnership that could transform the very concept of survival itself. The Galactic Confederation's central chamber fell silent as the comprehensive report was presented. No holographic display, no advanced communication technology could fully capture the magnitude of what had transpired. Commander Marcus Webb stood at the center of the massive circular chamber, his presence both humble and transformative. Behind him, representatives from the Zilara civilization stood as living testimony to a fundamental shift in galactic understanding. "We are not here to present a victory," Marcus began, his voice calm and measured. "We are here to propose a new way of understanding potential." The chamber represented centuries of established galactic protocols, pristine computational systems, perfectly calibrated communication networks, centuries of refined diplomatic interactions. And now, everything would change. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stepped forward, her presentation a symphony of data and philosophical insight. Where previous civilizations had presented technological achievements, she showed something entirely different. Not a fixed set of accomplishments, but a living process of continuous transformation. The Void Harvesters' attack had become more than a military conflict. It was a fundamental challenge to the entire galactic understanding of civilization, survival, and potential. Zilara researchers presented their own findings. Their collaboration with humanity had revealed profound truths about technological and cultural development. Perfection was not an endpoint. It was a continuous process of reimagination. We discovered that our greatest limitation, Krell, the primary Zilara researcher, explained, was our belief in our own advancement. The chamber's holographic displays began to shift. Traditional civilizational maps, once static representations of technological achievement, now pulsed with dynamic, adaptive networks. Each civilization was no longer a fixed point, but a living, breathing system of potential. The Galactic Confederation's most senior analysts struggled to process the implications. Humanity had not just defended the Zilara. They had introduced a completely new paradigm of understanding existence. Technological systems were no longer seen as fixed achievements. They became living ecosystems of continuous potential. Communication was reimagined as a dynamic, adaptive process. Conflict transformed from destruction to communication. Marcus Webb's presentation methodically dismantled centuries of galactic understanding. Traditional metrics of civilizational development, energy production, faster-than-light capabilities, computational complexity, were revealed as superficial measurements that missed the fundamental essence of potential. "Potential is not what you have," he explained. "Potential is your capacity to continuously reimagine what you can become." The Zilara stood as living proof. A species once marked for extinction now represented a new model of collaborative potential. Their technologies, once rigid and perfect, now pulsed with adaptive energy. Their cultural systems transformed from fixed protocols to dynamic learning networks. Dr. Elena Rodriguez presented case studies that challenged every existing understanding. How human approaches had transformed seemingly insurmountable challenges into opportunities for complete systemic reimagination, climate restoration, social restructuring, technological innovation. Each example was less a technological achievement and more a philosophical statement. Limitation is an invitation to explore. The Void Harvester's computational records were presented, a chilling testament to their previous methodology. 200 civilizations consumed, reduced to base molecular components, a perfect mathematical elimination process. And then humanity. An anomaly that defied every computational prediction. A species that didn't just resist destruction, but transformed the very concept of conflict. The chamber's environmental systems seemed to pause. Even the technological infrastructure appeared to be processing this fundamental shift in understanding. Krull stepped forward, their translucent form a living representation of this new potential. "We were not saved," they explained. "We were invited to reimagine ourselves." The Galactic Confederation's oldest members, species that had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, began to understand. This was more than a military victory. This was a fundamental transformation of galactic consciousness. As the presentation concluded, something profound became clear. The real threat was never the Void Harvesters. The real limitation was the inability to see potential as a continuous, adaptive process. Humanity had not just defended a civilization. They had introduced a new way of understanding existence itself. Epilogue. In the vast darkness of space, potential is not a destination. It is a continuous journey of becoming.